Hey everyone, it's A from Atomicals here. I'm enjoying the discussion. Just want to jump in real quick on that note that you just made about any new features to Bitcoin will greatly enhance the power of BitVM. And an example I'm thinking about for the Atomicals protocol is being able to verify just much more rich smart contracts. And for an example, is if we need to do 64-bit arithmetic. Right now, if I am understanding correctly, we only have the Bitcoin opcodes to do that in. So we'd have to emulate 64-bit arithmetic, set up a tap tree, and do a BitVM commitment for that 64-bit emulation, which will result in a much larger tree, right? Or much more heavy computation to set up and all that. So I think this is a great example where you mentioned that if any additions or improvements to Bitcoin will just enhance the power of BitVM. So that could reduce the size of the BitVM setup and the program by orders of magnitude if we got, say, big int support or at least the 64-bit int support in Bitcoin with the opcodes, then that would greatly enhance just the power of BitVM. So I'm really enjoying this. I think there's a lot of power in BitVM that's going to be layered in and unveiled, and with Atomicals, we can use this already because it's just a transition of a UTXO. But I'm really keen on people's thoughts about much more longer programs. Imagine looping through 100 times of some set of elements and applying some cryptographic operation. If there's any kind of plans or suggestions, maybe I'll ask Robin, if there's any opcodes that you could imagine in Bitcoin that you wish was really enabled or tweaked, like the example I gave with 64-bit arithmetic. If there's something that you see that would be like, if we just had this, then BitVM could be enhanced in such a way. So I'm really curious your thoughts if there's something like that, and interested to hear your guys' thoughts. Thanks.
Opcat would enable everything.
Yeah, I was going to say opcat is a huge benefit because then we can construct arbitrary length byte vectors, and that's just a massive improvement over what we have currently. But just thinking about this further, right? If you're considering that you just have a TabScript leaf and you're emulating either one or more set of NAND gates, then it stands to follow that if you're able to push through additional opcodes, then you can just modify the value on the stack instead of building out an entire circuit for it, which is definitely nice. But one thing that I am a little bit worried about is the feasibility of getting more opcodes. Essentially, I think there's an upper limit of how much changes you can really make to Bitcoin over a set time period. And if we're not able to get additional opcodes, then we might forever be limited to having to create a binary circuit for pretty much any function that we want.
Could I ask a question along that line? Like, how feasible is it to consider adding additional opcodes or like taking that? That's like a straight soft fork, or is it a hard fork of Bitcoin?
Well, it would be a soft fork, Grant. But have you ever been in the Bitcoin community?
Yes.
I'll just say
yes.
I'll just say this: the odds of a new feature being added to Bitcoin explicitly for BitVM are exactly 0. So, like in that regard, everybody should be thinking about what features do people want for reasons that have nothing to do with BitVM, but that will also have a positive impact on BitVM.
If I may be a little more blunt, I think if you can find an intersection of a feature that would help both Lightning and BitVM, that probably has the highest chance.
I'd like to just quickly jump in and say that the future is not written. I totally get the ethos of that in Bitcoin, but the future is not written, and there's a tremendous momentum behind BitVM. And opcat is one of the opcodes that I've also identified as absolutely critical, and it is trivial to implement. It was originally an original Satoshi Bitcoin opcode that was disabled. So changes to Bitcoin, as we know, are completely on the table. Like we have Taproot, right? We have all these things. So to say that it's not going to happen, I think that's a realistic perspective. I agree. I completely agree with you. But if we just kind of put down our swords and our armor and say, well, I guess we're just never going to do that. We shouldn't try. especially when there's such momentum behind BitVM, I think that would be giving up a little too early. So that's why I'm really curious, like forward looking, because I have some really powerful constructions that are not possible or completely not feasible at all without opcat and without 64-bit arithmetic. If those two things we got in, it would unlock a world of potential. So I agree with you that it's probably not going to happen and not the time frame. So we shouldn't count on it anyway. And I'm really grateful that we can build circuits for the things that we can't get. But at the same time, I think there's an opportunity for us to orient ourselves towards, like you mentioned, maybe some kind of intersection with something that would benefit Lightning. And if there's some initiative there, it might just be something that we get, who knows, in 5 years, we might get that opcat. So that's just my 2 cents there.
Robin, you were going to jump in and say something?
Yeah, CTV would make BitVM way better. Also, it would probably remove lots of the interactivity in the setup, so it would make it easier to have more verifiers, and APO as well, because also you can emulate CTV with APO for that purpose, I think. CAT would be pretty awesome because, as I think Atomicals protocol, he mentioned that you could concatenate bit vectors, and that would give lots of freedom. Also, CAT would enable covenants, or it would enable to emulate covenants to some degree. So that would be cool. But I'm not sure if we really need some kind of soft fork to make cool stuff, because what I think is, if we have any kind of bridge that works, then we can bridge BTC into more feature-rich systems, and that is a very important point, because once we have bridged BTC into more feature-rich systems, then we can basically build everything that we can envision, right? And that is the most important part. So we just need some kind of bridge, and if if BitVM enables nothing but that bridge, that would be already extremely powerful. And it's also important to note that this bridge can be super slow and super cumbersome to use, because people won't have to use it very often. If it just works somehow, if in particular the pack out works somehow, then that makes the sidechain coins valuable. And when they're valuable, then then we can use them and use them in that more feature-rich setting. And I think that is very important, that we just need some kind of bridge. And even though if that bridge is very slow and very cumbersome to use, it would already enable basically every kind of feature that we would like to have.
On that point, I'm glad you brought that up. I really appreciate it. I'm thinking along those lines of when I mentioned those opcodes in terms of bridging BTC. So if I understand what you're saying, if BitVM serves, the one purpose it serves is that we can lock Bitcoin and bridge those tokens to another chain. And even if this process is slow, cumbersome, and expensive, but it works, then basically it opens up a whole world of possibility, because this other side, we call this the secondary chain, would be able to take on, do more smart contracting and micropayments. And then when the users, either like individual users of some, let's say some functional token, want to bridge back, they could maybe pool their assets, or they could incrementally, retrieve their Satoshis that are locked on the BitVM bridge, right? That's kind of what you're saying, is that BitVM would have, could really unlock this potential, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, exactly. And most regular users would not have to use the bridge at all, because once the bridge works for some users, then all the other users or all the regular users can just use atomic swaps to bridge between
kind of like what we see with Liquid today, where basically a lot of companies really will do a massive amount of peg-in, and then you can go to bolts.exchange or other places to do an atomic swap to grab your Liquid. You don't have to necessarily be in charge of pegging in your own coins.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So you mean they would, let's say there's, I don't know, one BTC locked in the bridge, and then there's users on both sides that have you could atomic swap directly the UTXOs on either chains. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Or you could have like a lightning channel on the other chain, and if you have that lightning channel, it can be easily connected with like the general lightning network, and then you can simply pay without having any friction and without even noticing that you just switched the chain.
Think of it like trading infrastructure. Like the peg would be like the OTC desk, and like you can't just go to the OTC desk. Like you need to have X capital, you need to know people, whatever. But the people who can go to the OTC desk can go grab things there and then create a second market for them, for just regular users.
Right. So this bridge is the collateralization point, and there's could be, let's say, sliced or derived assets from that bridge on that secondary chain that trades freely. It could be swapped even for BTC on the other side atomically, and anytime we know it's redeemable, there's some party or maybe some condition that we can set up. So it's not just a trust. It's not a trusted setup, but maybe you and I can set up these bridges for 1,000 satoshis as an extreme micropayments example, and then we can act as our own mini bridges. And I see. So it wouldn't. The ideal to me would be that there's no central. I know your analogy of OTC. I get that. Not everyone can go to it. But I think it also extrapolates to any levels. Like
Atomical,
right?
like
If I'm
you
not
were
mistaken.
just like randomly moving away from your mic a lot and getting really quiet. Like if you could
Sorry
try to
about
keep
that.
it closer.
Okay. Sorry, should I repeat the question, or was that clear enough?
Yeah, please. Like I couldn't hear half of what you
Okay,
were saying.
sorry about that. Okay. So the OTC analogy is a good one. And I think it's sufficient enough to create these bridged assets. But if I'm understanding correctly, anyone could be this bridging point. And so any user, any organization could pool whatever amount of Bitcoins together to create these bridge points, which would lead to decentralization. But of course, it would take the original, we'll say, prover verifier to bridge them back, potentially. But I think that's not even, I think there needs to be a prover verifier. But if I'm not mistaken, the program could still be on other conditions. For example, solving some hash puzzle. So anyways, so I'm just kind of thinking out loud the potential. I think this is really powerful. I'm just a little bit in amazement. I think this might really serve the Atomicals protocol well, and other projects that are looking to do this kind of thing with Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, the only one who would be able to process withdrawals would be the prover in this situation. Like all the verifiers would be doing is whenever the prover processes a withdrawal, they demand a proof that like this is following the rules. And if they don't get that proof or the proof is fraudulent, then the verifiers can take the money from the prover.
I'm curious, could the prover publish? Could the prover publish the off-chain commitments in some CDN database somewhere, so anyone could verify it later that was followed? Like, does the prover have to be there, or let me rephrase that. Do they have to be there interactively, or can this all be published in advance?
Well, I mean, it can all be published and like made open, but ultimately, if any verifier challenges the prover, then it becomes an interactive process on chain, and they have to be there watching the chain to respond to things.
Right, and if there's a lot of people in this bridge, then everyone would be incentivized to initiate that interactive process. So, right, if everything's available publicly, someone's got money locked up, we just need to care that one person would go ahead and take the next step in that discovery process, correct?
Well, I mean, if the prover does things correctly, then no challenge should ever be issued. Mm-hmm. Like the way this works, if a verifier challenges a prover, the verifier is actually putting money on the line too. So if a verifier challenges a prover when the prover is acting honestly, eventually that prover is actually going to be able to take the verifier's money.
Okay, I understand. Thanks.
Eric, been awfully quiet over there.
I'm thinking about the awesome opportunities of OpCat.
Yeah, the cat's staying in the bag.
It enables governance. Did you know that?
Oh, I know.
If we can just get OpCat, if there's anything that comes out of this, just get OpCat.
Yeah,
that would be remarkable. It's not a risky change either. Unlike like 64-bit arithmetic, I can get it. But even that's pretty straightforward. But OpCat is very, very simple and yet very powerful for what it enables.
Cats are dangerous.
The OpCat is dangerous, or the animal?
Yeah, I am not a fan at all of giving direct script support of things like OpCat. It enables way too many things that can start getting way too screwy in terms of incentives. Me and Robin have had this conversation a few times.
Well,
yeah,
well,
essentially makes script itself Turing complete, right? Like you wouldn't need these hacks anymore to essentially make script Turing complete.
Well, I'm with Satoshi Nakamoto, who put it in there. I'm really with the founder of Bitcoin on the power of OpCat, and I'm with him. So it's just one of these things. He had a lot of wisdom 12 years ago to put it in there, and it would be just really powerful for us to have it.
Can I just say this for the record? Satoshi was kind of an idiot in a lot of ways. And a lot of the stuff he did with the first implementation of Bitcoin was next level stupid.
Oh, yeah, we're all here using his invention. So I just think that
we're here using it because of the miracle of the horde of people who flooded to it early on and fixed all of the shit that was fucked up.
Hey, I got it. I'm just saying from a pure computer science perspective, OpCat is extremely powerful, and I think he had a lot of wisdom there. In that case, he made other
mistakes. Dangerous though. Like, do you not like look at Ethereum? Look at Ethereum's Turing complete functionality, and look at all of the problems and issues that has caused. It's powerful, yes, but
not because of OpCat.
No, it's because of what you can
the
accomplish. It's because of what you can build with the capabilities of Solidity.
Well, it's a different model. We can have that conversation another time. But Ethereum's problems are not because of a string concatenation. There's absolutely not. String concatenation is not the root cause.
But that's downplaying what it is. It's not just string concatenation. It's the ability to construct arbitrary things on the stack. So that is actually a lot more.
Well, there's stack limits and all, so it doesn't matter.
Don't compare. Okay, the fact that you compared this to BitVM means I have failed at my job of dashing all of your dreams. Like, part of the reason why BitVM does not create the types of problems that type of functionality in script itself would is because of all of these limitations around the interactivity, the requirement for the prover / verifier dynamic. Like all of these limitations stop a lot of doors from being opened. But the minute you start bringing that functionality to script itself, there is no barriers to doing a lot of things there are with BitVM right now.
No, okay, but that's the other way to say the same. An equivalent form of saying your statement is, you just said the doors are not open. These risky doors cannot be opened because BitVM is limited. But that's begging the question. The reason BitVM is limited, it's because there's no OpCat and other things. Like, it's circular, right? So, but anyways, we can have this debate in another place. I'm just saying that That is one of the powerful opcodes, and we can see the other forks of other UTXO blockchains to see the risks in practice of what's happened, and it hasn't manifested. Not to say it couldn't, but I think we can have this. I'm happy to debate this on another level. Whether Satoshi was right or wrong in this case is a different point. I'm just saying from engineering, computer science perspective, there's a lot of doors that can be open, and I don't see any evidence, and I'm happy to certainly be corrected if there's any evidence to say that, okay, we open opcat, here's all the things that will unlock and all the demons will pass through this portal, all these locked doors you should never been opened. So, but I do appreciate your thoughts on that, and I will take some more time to research and understand, and maybe we can have another conversation about opcat and some of these things. So I do appreciate your thoughts.
Maybe another thing that might be interesting is how to make that setup ceremony, permissionless. Because if everybody can participate and become a verifier, and nobody can stop you from becoming a verifier, then you can.
Cat is disallowed.
Yeah, there used to be a bug in the implementation. Like Satoshi discovered that he made a mistake, and that there is a bug in opcat.
No, that's not it. No, the reason is that you can create an exponential algorithm very quickly, right? So you just opcat repeatedly, and you can take 32 bytes, 64 bytes, and you opcat that again, becomes 128, and you can consume a lot of memory very, very quickly, right? Yeah. It's exponential in the different opcats. So
that's not true, because
wasn't that fixed?
Yeah, the size of stack items is fixed. It can be at most, I think, like 520 bytes or something. And so you can repeat that trick until you get to 520 bytes, and then afterwards you don't get any.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's the size of the stack. People... Like 520 opcat creates a memory usage that is 2 to 520, which is a big number.
There's a stack limit. No, that transaction will be rejected. No, that's not possible. So yeah, maybe before there was no resource limits on Bitcoin, and sure, but no, that's impossible now. There's a stack limit. You couldn't do that. What you just described.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm wrong. That was the original motivation. What is the stack limit that prevents that nowadays?
The basic memory
limitations.
Yeah, the basic memory blow up from opcat was trivially fixed. The reason that it was deactivated was more sort of shell shock, people being scared of the potential of opcat, not the specific memory blowout that's trivially fixed. It's more that the sort of design space of how you could fuck around with opcat wasn't obviously clear, and it was sort of safer to err on the side of caution with opcat. You have some. Okay, go ahead.
That was the public narrative, but the real reason is because it's so darn powerful that it would we can take the face value, but come on, we're all engineers here. We realize that our resource limit solves it pretty well, and there's no evidence of anything. Like it's ridiculous to think that was the real
Atomical.
reason.
This is the problem. Bitcoin is not just an engineering problem. It's an incentive system, it's an economic system, it's a social system, and acting like the only concerns that need to be taken into account when looking at what gets enabled or not are the engineering concerns is the pitfall of every developer who has ever walked through this space and then exited with the walk of shame. Like, that's not the only concern here. That's not the only problem space to consider risks.
I understand. And I literally just said the explanation that it was a technical problem around opcat was not the reason. I literally just said it's a non-technical problem, just like you confirmed. So I said the same thing, that opcat was removed not for technical reasons, but for political and social reasons is what I said. So I'm glad you reaffirmed my point.
All right, so guys,
Cats are dangerous.
Satoshi was also a bit paranoid because he disabled like stuff like 2mul or so, like multiplying a number by 2, which you can do with other opcodes too. So Satoshi was definitely a bit paranoid when he disabled all these opcodes. And there was not like pure rational behind it. It was also just fear. That is very obvious.
Well, I wouldn't call it fear. It's a lack of resources. Like there were not the mental developer resources at the time to comprehensively analyze these things. And so like that's just an irrational, illogical move to just leave them on and walk away from it. You know what I mean?
I think he definitely deactivated stuff that here, optimal, for example. Yeah, you can very easily emulate that, and it's kind of obvious that you can do that. And he deactivated it anyways, so there is no real rational reason to do that.
Well, I mean, I think there's quite a lot of rational reasons to purge the whole thing when you just look at the scope of the mistakes he made. Like the block size limit and the lack of that was an exponential denial of service attack vector. The initial implementation didn't actually take the work into account when looking at the longest chain. It was just whichever chain had the highest int block count. And so this is why I said, like, in a lot of ways, Satoshi was a complete idiot. And so, like, I don't see that as just blind fear. Like, that was a very rational action in response to seeing all of these implementation screw ups and poor design choices. Let's pare this down to the absolute minimum that is the easiest to analyze and assess and go from there.
Yeah, still that doesn't explain why he deactivated optimal. Because yeah, it's, as I said, you can easily opt up, opt add, emulates it perfectly. It's exactly the same. You just need 2 opcodes now instead of a single one. So that didn't change the functionality really. It really feels to me that he just got paranoid, and then he just by gut instinct, he deactivated some opcodes and some other opcodes he didn't activate. I don't think that he really thought it through. But anyways, the point that I wanted to make before we started fighting about over opcat was that it's important to make the setup ceremony permissionless such that everybody can participate. Because if you can participate yourself, then you can be certain that the bridge is trustless for you, because you can slash. And I think that's an important point. And another cool thing is that we can probably cascade verifiers. So we can have verifiers verifying the verifiers. So you could basically delegate your trust to some particular verifier, and then you also set up a circuit with them. And when they don't slash the prover for misbehaving, then you can slash your semi-trusted verifier. And this way you can probably increase the number of total verifiers a lot, and then this one honesty assumption becomes stronger again.
Not a fan of protocols that involve slashing, by the way. Any protocol that can work without slashing is better than one that has slashing. So apologies, I'm late to the conversation. Is there a way to do BitVM without slashing? If you have any pre-eval, something like that, can you do BitVM without slashing?
I'm not sure about that. What I think is more interesting is if we can replace the prover. Like if the prover misbehaves, then we can just give the money that is locked with the prover to the next prover. And if that would be possible, then I feel like the slashing wouldn't be that bad, because it's not just they wouldn't just use the money. Like they would lose their own deposit, but the money at stake, the user's money, will just be given to the next prover, and so yeah, everything is fine. And it's not just incentives. It's the money being safe.
Presumably, there's a way to use the L2 protocol, ELTOO, here.
There might be some ways, and if we had any pref out, I'm pretty sure we can make the challenge response protocol more simple, and I think it would also help with the multi-party setting a lot, but I don't see if we can get rid of the slashing completely. Because in general, you always have to disincentivize a dishonest party from starting a baseless claim or from starting a baseless dispute.
Well, you just move on with an honest party instead, right? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but let's say there's a verifier who just wants to troll the prover, then they make a baseless claim or a baseless dispute, and then the prover has to invest some money into fees to prove that they were honest, and then we have to punish the verifier for costing the prover fees for no reason. So there will always be some kind of slashing involved.
All right, so forgive me for being late. I wanted to ask a question. So as I understand BitVM, right, it's an interactive proof protocol. You can always convert an interactive proof protocol into a non-interactive one via the Fiat-Shamir heuristic, right?
No, that doesn't. No. That's not true. That is only true if what the verifier does is providing nothing but a public coin. So if the verifier provides nothing but randomness, then you can apply the Fiat-Shamir transform. Otherwise, you cannot just apply it. Maybe there are some ways to work around that.
Can you describe why that's not possible here?
Sorry?
Could you describe why that's not possible here?
I mean, you get the difference that if the verifier provides only randomness, only some random data, that's different than the verifier having to provide something intelligent. And here, in the case of the verifier has to ask the right questions. And if the verifier doesn't ask the right questions, then it cannot prove fraud. So what the verifier does is totally not random, but very structured.
I see. Okay. I guess my my initial thought when I saw BitVM was, can we make a zero-knowledge verifier out of BitVM?
Yeah. I mean, we can definitely run zero-knowledge verifiers on top of BitVM. That's actually what it's designed for, and I think that's one of its most powerful features. And I think for the bridges, or like for building a bridge, it will be very valuable to run a zero-knowledge proof verifier on top of BitVM. But I think what you are aiming at here, or what your question is aiming at, is if we can make the challenge response protocol non-interactive, or if we can make it single round or something like that. And yeah, that is a very interesting research question, but I cannot answer it positively currently.
I mean, the big picture here is to take a decidable language, and the two examples in my head are simplicity or TLISP, where basically it's not Turing complete, right? There are loops. You unroll all loops, right? And then I prove a transcript of the computation, right? And I make a zero-knowledge proof out of it. You know, doing an interactive protocol to prove a computation is cumbersome and very, very time-consuming. And so it's a lot faster to unroll all the loops and prove the transcript. In which case, what you're looking at is actually having a zero-knowledge proof verifier to prove the transcript. And you can prove a much larger computation with much less verification that way.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. Being able to verify zero-knowledge proofs in the BitVM leverages the power of the VM a lot. Like, yeah, it makes it much more efficient to verify way larger amounts of data, and also to basically prove any kind of statement about data that is inscribed in the chain or something. For example, if the prover has to reveal some kind of data in some kind of inscription or so, we can verify that with a ZKP as well. And that could be very important for bridges. That, yeah, the person who's facilitating the bridge, who's running the bridge, that they have to, make some commitments in the chain that is required for the people who are doing pegouts or so. Basically, yeah, solve the data availability problem.
Yeah, data availability is fucking good. All right, for being a little bit late, I wanted to ask, have you done any benchmarks with this? You know, because naively, it seems to me we're talking about like a sub-kilohertz computer here with BitVM. And so the number of computations you could actually verify is very, very limited. What's your, maybe you probably already answered this, Robin, apologies, but how big of a computation can you verify in what kind of time?
I think you can verify basically arbitrary amounts of computation. So you could run the VM for like 2 days or something, and still verification would be very quick on the main chain, because yeah, you can do this bisection protocol, and then basically in logarithmically many steps you can find a faulty state transition in a trace. And also mind that as long as both participants agree, then they can instantly settle any kind of computation. So it is only about how quickly can you disprove an incorrect claim. And yeah, I think with that bisection protocol, if you have a trace of length n, you can basically disprove any incorrect trace in log n many transactions.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And also mind that when you're running it off-chain, you can run it, like you're only bound by clock speed, by your computer's clock speed, and you can run it very, very quickly. And you're totally not bound to some processing speed of Bitcoin or something. And yeah, as long as you agree, you can settle it instantly as soon as you made a commitment to what the outcome is. Okay, I guess I have to leave now. Was a pleasure talking to you guys. If you have any last questions, we can do it now. I think I have like a couple more.
I just want to say thank you, Robin, for accomplishing the impossible and leaving Eric almost entirely.
Yeah, I feel very flattered.
Yeah, Robin, I have a last question.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a great space tonight, and I understand like 10% of what you are talking about. I cannot understand the most of the discussions there, but I feel your passion of the devs. My question is inspired by your theory, by the bitmap. I read your paper. I read the paper several times, and still I cannot understand the detail of the technical aspect. My simple question is, following your theory, do you see if there's a Bitcoin layer 1 DeFi within this year, some projects like that, or how soon will you see that kind of thing happen? Apply your theory? Is that? Yeah, that's my question. Maybe too noble.
Yeah, as I said before, I'm not really into DeFi and stuff like that. But I care about building a bridge to bridge Bitcoin to more feature-rich systems. And yeah, that's what I focus on. I'm not really into DeFi or tokens or anything like that. Maybe other people will build something like that, but I won't.
Okay.
Hey, Robin, really quick before you go, wanted to get a sense for your plans for BitVM from like an organizational perspective. How are you thinking about BitVM? Is it a nonprofit entity that you're going to spin up? Is it, you're putting together some kind of foundation model? Is it going to be a for-profit company? I'm just curious how you're thinking about BitVM moving forward.
Yeah, So we have already founded the ZeroSync Association, which is a Swiss nonprofit company. This is where I work at. This is my main job, actually. And we will probably use that nonprofit to also support the development of the BitVM. And we hope to be able to fund it with research grants, so that we don't have to come up with some business model that we don't believe in. If we had some kind of business model that makes sense to us, then we would totally do it. But right now, it seems like the best way is to just keep it pure. And because also it seems like there is interest in the community to fund it, and as long as that is given, we would totally go that route and keep it as pure as possible. Also, like, to attract the best people, because, as you know, the best people in this field, they are the most allergic against weird business models. So we will try to keep it as pure as possible to be able to work with the best people.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Hello, Robin. I'm just joined the space. I'm not sure you talked about this before, but I'm just wondering, could you make some example, like what kind of thing BitVM can achieve potentially? Maybe take like existing infra as an example, because I really have an understanding of BitVM.
Yeah, I said that before. I do think that the most interesting application of BitVM is to build bridges to bridge BTC into more feature-rich systems, like sidechains or like client-side validation protocol on Bitcoin, or
So it's like a BTC bridge with non-custodial.
It wouldn't be like fully trustless, but trust minimized, in the sense that you have n verifiers, and if a single verifier is honest, then the bridge is secure. And then the problem is to maximize that n, to maximize that number of verifiers. And
Okay, thank you.
That is the problem.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'm running late.
Yeah, thank you, Robin.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Also, if the audience would love to discuss more on BitVM, there's a Telegram group called BitVM Builders. You can also join the group to discuss more on this topic. Yeah. Yes. And also, we will love to do more discussion space like this in the future. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming and join the discussion today. Yeah, it's really a pleasure. Yeah. Anybody want to have the last words for our space?
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye, Robin. Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Okay.
Terry， 我们是要关了吗？还是要接着开？
也可以。对。
好像时间有点早。
The audience wanna chat further about this topic, or yeah.
哎呀 ，Bob 跑了，其实 Bob 聊聊蛮好的。Anyway， 拜拜， 我也下了。
Okay. All right. We're gonna talk again maybe later. Yeah.
OK， 好。其实今天就听的还是听他们在聊嘛，对。OK， 拜拜。
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Yeah.